Hello everyone. Welcome to today's story. Sometimes happiness comes wrapped in silence until a single truth shatters everything we thought we knew. When Alex took Lytuna to the clinic, the doctor revealed the gender of their unborn child. But what happened after was something no one expected. Why did Alex's mother react so strangely to the news? Could this fragile joy turn into a new storm for Lytuna and Alex? And in the face of love, duty, and hidden expectations, what choice will they make for their family's future? Stay with us until the end of this video to witness the answer. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Your support will help us reach 1,000 followers and bring more untold stories to life. Lytuna sat alone, her voice trembling as she admitted the truth that weighed on her heart. The videos she worked so hard to create, the fragments of her life she shared with care, had been stolen. Other channels had taken her face, her words, her images, and twisted them into something false. The betrayal cut quietly, like a cold wind moving through an empty room. She confessed she did not know why they did it. Perhaps greed, perhaps cruelty. Yet what hurt most was not the theft itself, but the thought of her audience being deceived. She had only one channel, Lytuna, and she clung to it as though it were the last lantern in a vast and darkened night. Her words spilled gently, full of gratitude for those who had not abandoned her. She promised them she would continue to create videos that carried meaning, work born from her own hands and her own tears. The sadness was heavy, but beneath it flickered an ember of quiet strength. Outside, the sound of cicadas grew louder, as if the earth itself answered her grief. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the stillness, then opened them again with the resolve of someone who refused to vanish. Though shadows crowded around her, she would not surrender. Her story was not theirs to take. The morning light stretched across the wooden floor, golden but heavy, carrying with it the weight of another demanding day. Lytuna walked slowly through her home, her movements quiet, deliberate, as though each step had been measured against the burdens waiting for her. Thoughts of her mother drifted in and out. Her mother had gone to visit old friends, free for a while she herself remained entangled in endless work. Her phone rang, and she pressed it to her ear. Ms. Trung's voice was brisk, carrying news of a hill of trees surveyed, the price set higher than expected. Lytuna listened carefully, nodding though no one could see, her mind calculating what this meant. The name of Ms. Hawaii surfaced, the contract with her large and demanding. Wood, bamboo, supplies, they were no longer simple things. They had become lifelines, threads holding together the fragile fabric of survival. She promised to go with Ms. Trung, to survey directly, to negotiate. Her tone was steady, but fatigue slipped quietly into the silence between her words. She closed her notebook and stood still, staring at the child's small blanket folded neatly nearby. The baby stirred, a soft reminder that her work was no longer only her own. The fan hummed above, the cicadas outside cried endlessly, and for a fleeting second she let her shoulders fall. In that silence, she was not the worker, not the negotiator, not the woman balancing contracts. She was simply a mother who longed for rest, caught between two worlds, the hard soil of labor and the soft, fragile breath of the child sleeping in the next room. The afternoon air was still when Johnny arrived, his footsteps carrying the warmth of familiarity. He brought a small gift, simple yet thoughtful, and placed it gently on the table. Lytuna smiled, though faintly, her face marked by both gratitude and weariness. Beside them, Henry slept soundly, the rise and fall of his chest the only rhythm in the quiet house. Johnny's words were kind, his tone calm, but beneath it lingered the unspoken weight of concern. He asked about the baby, about her days, about the silence that had grown around her. Then, slowly, Lytuna allowed herself to speak of the wound she rarely touched. The day her ex-mother-in-law had come uninvited, stealing Henry away when her guard was down. Her voice faltered as she recalled the panic, the desperate search, the crushing fear of losing her child. She remembered the moment Alex and the police brought Henry back to her arms, her knees weak, her heart a storm. Though she tried to explain it lightly, the shadow in her eyes betrayed the depth of the scar. Johnny leaned closer, his face grave. He warned her gently. It could happen again. Even promises, even written commitments could be broken. Lytuna nodded, knowing his words were true. Yet, within her heart, compassion stirred. Despite everything, she whispered, Henry was still her grandchild's blood, and if the woman truly changed, perhaps she could still be allowed to see him. Silence settled again, but it was not empty. It was the silence of two lives entangled in loss, choosing kindness despite the fear that lingered. The path to Johnny's mother's house curved through quiet fields, the air heavy with the scent of soil after a long day's sun. When they arrived, the door opened slowly, and the old woman's face lit with surprise. Her eyes softened as she reached for Henry, her arms trembling with both age and joy. It had been months since she last held him, and now she pressed him close, murmuring endearments as though no time had passed. The house filled with the fragrance of boiling broth and fresh herbs. Lytuna moved about the kitchen, her hands busy, yet her mind wandering. From the corner of her eye, she watched Johnny's mother, her frail figure rocking the child with a tenderness that quieted the room. The small house, though worn by years, glowed with warmth in that moment. At the wooden table, Johnny spoke of work and land, but his words carried less weight here. The clatter of dishes, the soft cooing of Henry, and the laughter of an old woman created a fragile harmony. For a while, worries seemed distant, like clouds drifting beyond the hills. Yet beneath the surface, Lytuna's heart trembled. Watching the old woman's joy, she wondered if she should move back here, let Henry grow under his grandmother's care, free herself from the constant strain of balancing everything alone. But then the thought of Alex's farm tugged at her, the work waiting, the life she had already built. The table became a stage for unspoken choices, between comfort and duty, between rest and persistence. The soup simmered, the baby sighed in sleep, and the evening carried them into a silence that was both tender and unresolved. The evening sky was veiled in gray when Alex arrived, his presence filling the doorway with a quiet intensity. Lytuna looked up, startled at first, then softened as his familiar voice broke the hush of the house. He sat across from her, his eyes carrying both longing and worry, and for a moment the clamor of work and family melted away. He spoke gently, his hand resting against the wooden table, fingers tapping in hesitation. He missed her, he confessed. Missed the ordinary hours that passed too quickly when they were apart. Then his words shifted, tentative yet firm. "Come to my company," he urged. "Work with me." If she joined him there, they would no longer have to steal hours between duties and visits. They could share more than fleeting moments. Lytuna listened in silence, the weight of his request pressing against her chest. Her eyes fell to her hands, calloused from labor, and then to the farm outside the window, where the soil still held the warmth of the sun. She shook her head softly. The company was not her world, she whispered. Her place was here, among the fields, the animals, the work that shaped her days. She did not belong to offices or contracts. The refusal was tender, but firm. It was not a rejection of him, but of a life that would erase who she was. Alex leaned back, silent, a flicker of disappointment in his gaze. The air between them thickened, not with anger, but with the quiet ache of two hearts wanting the same closeness, yet standing on different ground. The clinic smelled faintly of antiseptic and jasmine tea, a strange blend of sterility and comfort. Lytuna lay still, her hand clasped tightly in Alex's as the screen flickered to life. The hum of the machine filled the silence, and then, there it was. The rhythm of a small heartbeat, steady and defiant, echoing into the room like a secret melody. The doctor smiled gently and revealed the truth they had been waiting for. The child's gender. For a moment, time seemed to fracture. Alex's eyes lit with a restrained joy, the corners of his mouth trembling as he glanced at Lytuna. She blinked back tears, relief and fear mixing in the fragile space between them. It was more than news. It was a mirror reflecting all their hopes, their uncertainties, their unspoken promises. Later, Alex told his mother. The words left his lips softly, like stones dropped into a still pond. She froze, her hands pausing mid-motion, her expression unreadable. Then, slowly, the weight of her reaction emerged. Not anger, not delight, but something deeper, more complicated. Her silence was louder than any words, carrying a storm of expectations, memories, and disappointments. Lytuna lowered her gaze, the echo of that silence pressing against her chest. The air in the room grew heavy, fragile, as though the smallest sound might shatter it. Between them all stretched an invisible thread, one tied to love, to duty, to the unborn child who had already changed everything. In that stillness, joy met unease, and a single truth lingered. Even miracles are shadowed by the weight of how others choose to see them. Rain began to fall in slow, deliberate drops, tapping against the tin roof as evening descended. Alex stood at the threshold, his voice reluctant as he explained the contracts that awaited his signature. Work would not wait, even for moments like this. He promised to return soon, his hand lingering on Lytuna's shoulder longer than his words allowed. Then he was gone, his figure swallowed by the gray curtain of rain. Lytuna closed the door gently, her arms circling Henry. The child slept soundly, his breath warm against her neck, unaware of the storms, both outside and within, that shaped the world around him. She walked to the window, watching the rain blur the outlines of the garden, each drop like a whispered reminder of the choices that still hung unresolved. The house felt both full and hollow, full of Henry's small presence, of Alex's fading warmth, of Johnny's kindness that still lingered like the echo of a song. Yet hollow, too, with the silence of unanswered questions. What would become of her? Could she balance the fragile peace she had built against the weight of expectations pressing in from all sides? She pressed her forehead to the cool glass, letting the chill steady her. The rain outside turned heavier, and in its rhythm she found a strange comfort. Life, like the weather, was unpredictable, shifting without warning. But within her arms, Henry stirred, and she whispered a quiet promise. Whatever storms came, she would find a way to endure. Sometimes strength was not in fighting, but in simply staying, rooted, patient, waiting for light to return.
Tử Na buồn bã chia sẻ trong lúc bận rộn với công việc về bè chung về hợp đồng gỗ, Johnny ghé thăm mang quà cho bé Henry và rủ Tử Na cùng con đến thăm mẹ anh. Tại đó cả nhà quay quần trong bữa cơm ấm áp, nhưng Tử Na vẫn day dứt giữa công việc sống cùng mẹ hay tiếp tục ở lại trang trại. Alex xuất hiện mong muốn cô về công ty làm việc còn ngủi hơn, nhưng Tử Na từ chối, chọn sự bình yên quen thuộc. Đỉnh điểm khi Alex đưa Tử Na đi khám thai, các bác sĩ tiết lộ giới tính đứa con. Phản ứng bất ngờ của mẹ Alex khiến không khí lặng đi, để lại những khoảng trống đầy lo âu và tương lai.